There was this very old lady walking up the street, and Kenny decided he would spend a penny in police uniform into a drain in the road. She came along and saw him spending a penny, a policeman. She went, oh my dear, and she just tore off down the road.
You are baked, witch, you!
The restaurant was full of people, and when he came in, he used to say, hello, Giovanni, nice to see you. Have you had a wank this morning?
Charmed, I'm sure.
But the impulse behind these antics was a desperate one. He could be appalled by his own behaviour, but the reaction it generated filled an emotional gap in his life.
When I think of the shameless way I behave, anything for a cheap laugh, the dirty mimes, the dirty songs, and the obscene dialogue, and the person that I really am at home with myself, it is almost a Jekyll and Hyde existence, and the first half gives me guilt and remorse. The obvious remedy is to stop the lewd behavior, but then I'm loath to relinquish the laughs and the crowd that gathers about me. I need them like other healthy people need the affection of a partner.
Kenneth has, when he comes into a room, has to create excitement around himself. Not so much for the other people as for himself, so that he's stimulated. Because what he doesn't want to be is bored. Because there's a well of emptiness in that human being who needs stimulating, who needs calling out of the sort of depression that is the basic state of his existence.
I remember people coming to pubs. I remember Ted Smith, and he used to stand at bars and say,
And I told him, I said, you're not getting nothing out of me, mate. You're getting nothing.
All the comedians I've known have been deeply depressive. People manic depressive. The moments when you talk to them, you realise what a colossal amount of despair was underneath the facade which they desperately kept it at bay with. They kept it at bay with this facade. It felt their duty to channel a private misery into comedy.
I suspect he was a prisoner perpetually of the persona that he knew elicited the response of hilarity and of approval. He was almost insatiable in his desire for your finding him risible and funny.
Oh, love
There was something orgasmic about the effect he wanted in you, hearing the story. I mean, he wanted that above all, to build something to a great climax of crescendo of laughter and outrageousness. And then he would sort of fall silent.
I did used to get concerned about him sometimes, and I used to try to say, are you happy, and whatever. But he didn't really want to talk about that. I mean, I was having counselling at one time, and he thought that was ghastly in case it took away his creativity. He felt it would destroy something in him. He felt it would stop him being what he was.
Ladies and gentlemen, your star and host for tonight, Kenneth Williams.
In the late 60s, Williams found a new channel for his comedy, television. He became the compere of a new BBC Two variety show.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of International Cabaret, the United Nations of the entertainment world, where the sari meets the sweater, the kimono meets the kilt, the brassiere meets the bowler. And says, you go on ahead while I'll give these two a lift.
Williams would go down in broadcasting history for his efforts to reduce the fee he was offered for the show. He thought it was too much for too little.
I had a private word with Bill Cotton about my salary on TV and told him I thought it was excessive.
I offered him the rate for the job.
That's an awful lot of money.
And he said, oh, I couldn't possibly accept that. That's far too much money. Eventually I said, look, I won't talk money to you. I mean, I'll talk it to your agent. And, he said, oh, don't talk to him. He'll talk me into taking it. I mean, I said, well, that's his job, you know.
Ladies and gentlemen, from England, our own, the K system.
In International Cabaret, Williams became television's first high camp host. The programme was meant to be a showcase for international talent, but it was Williams' monologues between the acts that soon became the show's real star turn.
Every time she gets that bit about at the third stroke,
The audience for the show started off as being an ordinary ticket audience, but it soon got round that this was something that was a bit unusual.
He said, "Shut up!" I started crying. And he bashed me right across the face. And he said, "Pull yourself together. Do you want everyone to think you're a sissy?" I said, "Oh, no. I don't want them to think that." He said, "Well, put away that scented handkerchief."
Then it started to build an audience of gay people.
I've had it hard.
They were very appreciative of this type of performance.
Yes, I have, dear. You have too, have you?
And showed it by enormous bursts of laughter and applause. And of course, Kenny Williams lived on that. He thought that was wonderful.
But underneath his brash stage act, Williams' private fears persisted, even after the legalization of homosexual acts in 1967. His rare forays into the gay scene were clumsy and uncertain.
The only gay club I ever remember seeing Kenneth in the early days was the Spartan Club in Victoria. And actually, he wouldn't go until he was probably had a few drinks. And then he probably would overdo it and be over the top.
Went to the Spartan. I was bawling and shouting mutual masturbation to everyone. Most of them said, "No, thank you."
The central relationship in his life was still with his mother, Louis. And in 1972, they moved into adjacent flats. They went almost everywhere together, took regular holidays on cruise ships, and shared a sense of humour.
She was very funny, great with the repartee, and she had wonderful sayings of her own. But she also used to borrow phrases from Kenneth, and sometimes the dialogue between them was really quite entertaining.
But their conversation could be so uninhibited that friends were left speechless.
When we first had Kenneth here with Louis, he was leaving and said, "I must take her home now and rub her tits with olive oil." And we thought, does he always talk like this to his mother? And if you said to Kenneth, "Really, Kenneth, you can't talk like that to your mother," Louis would interrupt and say, "Don't you worry about my Ken."